Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Arvel Bird. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Let's take a journey of a Paiute. Like all stories that begin with one word, all journeys begin with one footstep. And all music begins with one note. This is the note that gave birth to an 8-movement concerto for the violin, the Native American flute, and the symphony orchestra. It is now known as the Tribal Music Suite, Journey of a Paiute. In this story that came from visions inspired by the violin, a young man emerges in the 1830s, the son of a Nauvoo Indian mother, later to become known as Southern Paiutes, and whose father comes from Scotland, carrying a fiddle that he plays for room and board across the country. It carries the king's head in the place of the scroll. He becomes a frontiersman, an explorer, a trapper, a trader, with the likes of some of those early guys, but he hooks up with Armijo, and he is part of the expedition that carves that first trail, now known as the Old Spanish Trail. His son is born in the early 1830s, and as his mother carries the baby out into the sunlight from their pine bark teepee, a golden eagle flies from its perch, and she exclaims, "Quanich," which means eagle, or to fly. And he will grow up among the Nauvoo Indians, or along what is now known as the Virgin River. And his father will teach him the tunes of Scotland and teach him to play the music of his own people on the violin. In the first movement, called Birth and Tribal Life, you're going to hear music that represents both his Native American heritage and his Celtic roots. Here's that magical note. When I was a young man, 19, I moved from Arizona to Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, to study privately with a Hungarian master violinist and teacher named Dr. Paul Roland. He took me apart, put me back together as a performer, and after 1 year, I knew how to play the violin. But I didn't know what music was. It was just little notes on a piece of paper. So I made a bold decision. I wanted to know where music came from, so I quit taking lessons, I quit reading music, and I went to my practice room every day, and I sat with the violin on my lap, and I listened for the music. As time passed, I became frustrated, a little bored. Wasn't hearing a thing except the traffic outside. So I picked up the violin and played that one note. And it was fascinating what I saw. Not only did I hear the music, but I saw the vision, I saw the story. And the more I played the music, the more the story embellished and grew and grew. I would go there every morning, and I would do the same thing. And I remembered the music from the story, and I remembered the story from the music. Eventually, it grew into like a 20-minute presentation, and I could remember every minute of it. As the story grew, young Quanich is out in the tall grass, the Shibboleth Plateaus, north of the Grand Canyon, when one morning, rifle fire breaks out on the ridge behind him. His aunts, his uncles drop dead in the sand. His mother is gathering the grass seed into a basket, and she drops the basket and screams to Quanich to run and hide as 4 horsemen descend on the small village of Indians. There's slave traders. And they gather up all the children and the women, and they take them down the old Spanish trail that his father had once helped discover. And they're sold into religious slavery in Southern California. Luckily for Quanich, his violin goes with him. And he is traded or sold to a padre who is himself a violinist, who loves the strings, the classical music from Spain. And he has a small orchestra that he teaches the children to play so that he can have music for Mass on Sundays and special holidays. But he won't let Quanich play the king's head violin because it's from the devil. He won't let him play the fiddle tunes his father taught him because they're also from the devil. But he does flourish under classical music and becomes a prodigy as a young boy. He's promised his freedom when he turns 15. But when he turns 15, that promise is reneged. Out of anger and frustration, he takes the king's head violin down from the wall and runs away. But he doesn't get far before he's captured by the Mexican army. He's given a choice. You can either be hanged as a runaway slave, or you can be conscripted into the Mexican army. War is coming between the United States and Mexico. And so he's given a musket. He's trained. In 1847, he's on the front lines. Little does he know that his father is facing him on the American side, and they're shooting at each other. The night before, Quanich goes into battle. He sits by the fire, he plays his flute, and he remembers back the times when he was with his village, his aunts and uncles and grandpas and grandmas. Good times. Juanich is wounded in battle, but he manages to escape on a horseback who's lost his rider. He rides and rides and rides and rides. And he was fearful of losing his life in the conflict. But as he lies in the dust on the battlefield, he hears the drums of his ancestors, giving him courage, giving him confidence, letting him know that he will live because he has a mission to complete with his life. He takes shelter with the Cahelia Indian village of California, where a grandmother and her beautiful granddaughter find him lying near a stream, and they bring him back to health and wellness. He wants to live with them for the rest of his life, but the grandmother says, no, you don't belong here. You belong over there. She says, you will walk with two moccasins, one in your native culture and one in the other culture. And you must go there now and find your destiny. So he does return to the port of Los Angeles and finds his King's Head violin in a pawn shop with the help of a banjo player that he meets. They're able to get the fiddle out of pawn. The banjo player is a sailor on a merchant ship and encourages Juanich to go with them. The burning thing Juanich wants now is to meet his father, to see his father that he hasn't seen for 10 years. He wants to go to Scotland. So the two of them board the merchant ship and provide the music for the long journey to the Pacific Islands, to Hawaii, to India, coast of Africa, on up to the shores of Great Britain, where he will go ashore. He will not find his father, but he will find his father's people, and they will recognize that he is relative because he holds the King's Head violin. And they are so happy to hear that his father made it. And his father may well still be alive. This is the journey across the ocean to common ground. Thank you. That's the seventh movement of the tribal music suite called Celtic Connection. While Quanich, who's now changed his name to James, is in Scotland, he falls in love. And he and the daughter of the woman who owns the inn where he is staying are married, bringing two clans together. They hear about the gold rush in California, and they both decide they wanted to come to California, across America, to try their luck. And so they make that journey through what is becoming the Panama Canal. They cross overland to the Pacific side and sail all the way up to San Francisco. And their father and son will be united. Here's the final movement. It's called a recapitulation. And you'll hear elements of the other movements in this last movement. And it goes back into infinity. I'd like to thank Paul for bringing me here to this association meeting. I'd like to thank Jeff Fry as well for all of his assistance and introductions. That CD spawned its own child, a book called The King's Head Violin Journeyless by Paiute, a good friend of mine who I played music with for several years back in Indiana, retired as a history teacher and a English teacher. And he'd heard me play this many times. He said, you know, we should write a book. We should write a book about this because this is like a full-length movement. It's not a documentary. It's more of an elaborated, elongated version of the story that I tell of the music, of the tribal music suite. And so that's what we embarked on 7 years ago. It's now available on Amazon, and iTunes, and ebooks. My partner's name is Fred Rofer. He's since moved here to Arizona, lives in Sun City, still plays music, great musician, great voice. And we collaborated together on this, and I have it available here. The combination of the book and the CD you can get at a discount price. And this is the editor's description of the book, The King's Head Violin. The King's Head Violin is an historic fiction about two cultures, one violin, and how music keeps the family circle unbroken. The King's Head is a fiddle tune better known in this country as Soldier's Joy, but is also the description of an actual violin with a king's head carved as the scroll of the violin. The King's Head follows the journey of this violin from Scotland to the shores of America, where William Kennedy brings it to use as a way to earn himself room and board in the new country. He'll flee the city of Baltimore and make his way to the frontiers of early America in the 1820s, where he becomes a frontiersman with the likes of Jedediah Smith, General Ashley, and Antonio Amir. Help me out. Amir. Whom he would forge the first route of the old Spanish travel with. How can a 100-year-old violin travel around the world in the 1820s? Read the book and take a journey around the world with the King's Head Violin as it leaves Scotland, its Scottish homeland, It weaves its way through a family of William Kennedy and an obscure indigenous tribe of the Southwest called the Nuwuvi Indians. Along the way, the violin becomes a part of a tale of an affair with a slave woman, murder, and then running into the life of a trapper and trader with the Western Indians. Again, it travels down the old Spanish trail, this time with slave traffickers into religious slavery, only to plunge into war and then escape with a jaunty journey over the ocean on a merchant vessel to the Pacific Islands, the African coast. All the while, the violin, the fiddle, and banjo play the tunes of the day, lifting hearts and easing pain and discomfort of those it encounters. The best part is how the violin leaves its imprint on the hearts of so many and becomes the thread that weaves together a Scottish clan with an American Indian tribe. Thank you. I'm over the questions now. Has anyone got a question for me?
We're emotionally spent.
As am I.
Yes. Not a question, but mainly a statement. I was struck by how some of the rhythms of the two different types of music, the Celtic and the native, were so closely entwined and really melded and married into one another. And if that was your doing, bravo. Yeah.
That was my doing. My connection with the land began with my grandmother, Rhoda Carpenter Johnson, who was born in a teepee in 1887 in Silver Reef, Utah, where my great-grandfather, Jack Bobby Queets, and his wife, Tuslunk, had gone so he could work in the silver mine there. He died a mysterious death, and so Tuslunk, fearing for her welfare and life and a baby, moved down to St. George, where she became a domestic helper for the big Mormon families. The work was too hard for her, and she died, leaving Rhoda an orphan. The big Mormon family called the Carpenters traded a horse and buggy to the farm for her, and she was raised away from her culture and her people. She was fully assimilated into the non-Indian culture, and she feared them, oddly enough, that they might come and take her children away from her. My mother grew up in a harsh time, a time of prejudice, a time where she said she and her brother Arvel had to fight every kid at school just to be left alone. It was tough. She did not appreciate her Paiute heritage. In fact, when my grandmother died, both she and her sister tried to change the race of my grandmother from Lamanite, which would have been what they were called back then, to white. But I'm from a different generation. I'm the only one of my grandmother's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren who heard the call of the whispering wind. It's not something you hear with your ears. It's something you hear with your heart. I hope to see you all tonight. Thank you very much.